Hey guys, what's going on? Blaine back for another Netflix review, and today I'm going to be talking about Back to the Outback. Back to the Outback is an animated family comedy that tells the story of a group of animals locked up in a zoo in Sydney, Australia. One of the animals, a snake named Maddie, becomes particularly affected by this when she's made out to be a monster in front of a packed crowd during her first show. When one of the animals is removed from the zoo, Maddie decides that she's had enough of being cooped up and convinces the remaining animals in her exhibit to plot an escape. They do so successfully and now must try to find their way back to their original habitat in the Australian outback before they're caught by humans hot on their trail. I've been eager to see this one for a while now, as I'm a huge animal lover, and I can safely say that this movie does not disappoint. It has its fair share of flaws, but they never get too much into the way of the story, and the variety of characters featured help to make up for them, most of which are voiced by Australian actors. What makes them all great is that they each have unique and memorable personalities. The lead character Maddie, voiced by Isla Fisher, has a kind demeanor and interesting backstory with her family upbringing. Her desire to return to the wild and her optimism to accomplish this made it easy to root for her character. She also gets along well with each of the other members of her group. There's Frank, a funnel web spider searching for love, Nigel, a timid and artistic scorpion, and Zoe, a sarcastic horned lizard. You wouldn't think that these animals would go well together, and they probably wouldn't in real life, but for the sake of the movie, their differences actually play a role in bringing them together. They can all relate to each other on some level because they're all considered dangerous animals, even though they're just existing as nature intended them to. This creates a common ground right off the bat, allowing the audience to associate them together, then allowing the relationship to blossom further through humor and deep conversations. But the group isn't completely harmonious. There is one wild card in the form of a vain koala named Pretty Boy, who was definitely my favorite character. He is obnoxious to a hilarious degree as he complains about getting dirty and missing appointments with his therapist. He's actually considered to be a celebrity of sorts at the zoo he's from, and isn't even all that interested in going to the outback like everyone else. He adds natural tension to the story as he's always at odds with the group, yet his circumstances force him to tag along anyway. This brings to mind one of the two themes I noticed to be present in the movie, the first of which being the importance of family. It's noted that none, or at least most of the animals, are familiar with who their parents are due to being born in the wild. And I believe it was Maddie who said that it doesn't matter who created you or where you come from, as long as you have people in your life who love you, that's who your family is. Even though this is a simplified version of that message, it still comes across well, and it makes sense once everyone in the group becomes more attached to each other. Everyone in the group has to stay on their toes, however, as they have to stay one step ahead of Chaz Hunt, the main antagonist who works as an event coordinator at the zoo they're from. He's sort of a faux Steve Irwin type figure, speaking in the same tone of voice as him, but also emphasizes the danger of the animals he's trying to catch. I found him to be a bit of a mixed bag. On one hand, it is funny to see him being pressured into some kind of hero role by his son, as well as his over-the-top Australian accent, but on the other hand, if it weren't for his son, he wouldn't even be interested in chasing the animals in the first place. This kind of affects the flow of the story, as the sense of urgency in his quest flip-flops back and forth, besides which it's never explained how he's able to track the animals so easily, and his negative attitude toward dangerous animals is a bit unusual considering how used he was to Maddie in the beginning. In the end though, Chaz doesn't impact the story all that much. Most of the entertainment value comes in the form of the various scenarios the animals find themselves wrapped up in when traveling to the outback, and entertainment is something this movie has in spades. The Ugly Secret Society, or US as it's referred to, is the best concept in this regard. It consists of other animals in the wild who are considered ugly or dangerous, like Tasmanian devils and spiders for example, and these animals, as with the others in the group, also have their own unique personalities and traits. I won't go into detail with all of them, though I will say Jacinta the shark was a big highlight for me. All someone in the group has to do if they require assistance is to say a catchphrase and an animal will come to assist them. This is such a great idea because the animal who comes to help them varies depending on the environment they're in. This allows for a greater number of unique characters, promotes a sense of progression as they go from one locale to the next, and above all, it's just plain fun. The animals frequently get into all sorts of shenanigans, such as surfing down a sewer pipe of running water, to riding on a school bus with screaming kids. I was constantly wondering what kind of hijinks the animals were going to get into next. The comedy is also quite enjoyable as well. One running gag that I loved was Nigel stinging Pretty Boy to sleep anytime he starts complaining too much. Sometimes other things would knock him out instead of Nigel, but the physical humor involved in his state of unconsciousness always kept things fresh. And the quality of the animation is something to be admired as well. On top of the gorgeous Australian scenery, the animals boast bright color hues that make them look visually appealing while still signaling to humans that they are dangerous. Even though the character models aren't exactly realistic, I can't deny that they look impressive. And this leads me to talk about the second theme I noticed in this movie, which is essentially not to judge a book by its cover. The animals are regarded by Chaz and most other humans in the movie as dangerous, scary, and having the potential to kill people with venom when they're still as much an animal as Pretty Boy, for example. I think the movie approaches this theme a bit haphazardly. Part of it is due to how it stumbles in distinguishing between their fear and hostility. The audience sees them speak English and not acting scary, but the humans freak out at them despite also speaking English. There's a few scenes that show how the animals appear to humans, but they only last a few seconds. There's a disconnect that makes it difficult for me to see things from the human's perspective. On an unrelated note, one animal that I feel should have been left out is the cane toad, which Maddie's group runs into at a lab. For anyone not aware, cane toads are an invasive species in Australia's ecosystem, and Maddie decides to free it since she doesn't want it to live in a cage like she did. I can understand her logic, and I know the movie isn't out to promote the invasion of a non-native species, but this was a bit dumbfounding to me. I would have preferred if the movie found a way to explain to its audience, especially one as impressionable as the children it's aimed toward, that the caging of animals is a complicated issue and not every single animal in a cage should be immediately released to the wild. Overall though, Back to the Outback is a delightful family movie that's enjoyable for kids and adults alike and is tailor-made for lovers of all animals, especially the creepy crawly ones. If you consider yourself one of those types and you like animated movies in general, you'll definitely have a good time watching this one. It's just under an hour and a half at length, so it's perfect for families to watch together. It has a great sense of humor, an entertaining cast of characters, and a good message about the importance of family values. Although a bit simplistic with its themes and the antagonist is iffy, the movie remains a fun romp from beginning to end. Anyways guys, that's gonna wrap up my review of Back to the Outback. Thanks for watching this video, I hope you enjoyed it, and as always stay tuned for the next part where next time I review the American drama, The Unforgivable. Bye bye!